Here are the 8 contestants preparing for tonight's show. These people have already appeared on the daily Weakest Link and walked away as winners. This evening they've returned to play for double the money, £20,000. But 7 of them will leave with nothing as they learn what it's like to be voted the Weakest Link.
Welcome to the Weakest Link. Any of the 8 people in the studio here tonight could win up to £20,000. They don't know each other, however. If they want the prize money, they'll have to work as a team. Last time on The Daily Show, they all left as winners. But this evening, 7 of them will leave with nothing as round by round, we lose the player voted the Weakest Link. Let's meet the team.
I'm Chris, I'm 22, I'm an investment banker and I'm from Ashford in Kent.
I'm Susan, I'm 52, I'm a retail stationer from Edinburgh.
I'm Phil, I'm a 44-year-old textile agent from Ruislip in Middlesex.
I'm Yvonne, I'm 49, a crime researcher from Shoreham-by-Sea.
I'm David, I'm 54, I'm from West Drayton in Middlesex, and I'm an airport chaplain.
I'm Elspeth, I'm 28 years old, and I'm a musician from Leigh-on-Sea in Essex.
I'm Steve, I'm a 49-year-old bailiff from Brixworth in Northamptonshire.
I'm Ian, I'm 36, I'm a prison officer dog handler from March in Cambridgeshire.
Now the rules. In each round, the aim is to answer enough questions correctly to reach your £2,500 target within the time limit. The fastest way to reach your target is to create a chain of 8 correct answers. Get your question wrong and you break the chain and lose all the money in that chain. But if you say bank before the question is asked, the money is safe. However, you start a new chain from scratch. We'll begin with the person whose name is first alphabetically. That's you, Chris. Let's play the Weakest Link. And the first question is for £50. Start the clock. Chris, in the human body, where would you find the palate?
In the mouth.
I'll accept the mouth, correct. Susan, backgammon is a board game for how many players?
2.
Correct. Phil, what does SWORK mean when written on an envelope?
Sealed with a loving kiss.
Correct. Yvonne, at the Sydney Olympics this year, which nation won the most gold medals?
America.
United States, correct. David,
Bank.
in religion, what are the first 2 words of the Lord's Prayer in English?
Our Father.
Correct. Elspeth, in which country might you travel from Port Elizabeth to Cape Town?
South Africa.
Correct. Steve, used in science as a measurement of volume, what do the letters CC stand for?
Cubic centimetre.
Correct. Ian, in football, how many lions featured in the title of the Euro 96 England song?
3.
Correct. Chris,
Bang.
Fisherman's Wharf and Haight-Ashbury are tourist attractions in which American city?
Seattle.
San Francisco. Susan, built around 2000 BC, on which Greek island are the ruins of the Minoan Palace at Knossos?
Crete.
Correct. Phil, what F is the one-word name for students in their first year at university?
Freshman.
Freshman or freshers, correct. Yvonne, what name is given to the arm-like projection of an octopus?
Tentacle.
Correct. David, in literature, what name is given to a set of 3 related works by the same author?
A trilogy.
Correct. Elspeth.
Bank.
What is a person doing if they are said to be in the land of Nod?
Sleeping.
Correct. Steve, how many red and black slots are there on a standard roulette wheel?
36.
Correct. Ian, St Tiggywinkle's Hospital in Aylesbury specialises in treating which animals?
Hedgehogs.
Correct. Chris, in DIY, circular chain and tenon are all types of what?
Saw.
Correct. Susan, in the Disney film The Lion King, what is the name of the cub who becomes king?
Simba.
Correct. Phil,
Bank.
who would be most likely to... Team, you have reached and banked your £2,500 target. That money will go through to the next round, but one of you will not. Remember, you'll have 10 seconds less in the next round, so you need to streamline your team. One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the Weakest Link.
Statistically, Susan is the strongest link and Chris is the weakest link, the only player to get a question wrong. Can he survive the voting?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Susan.
Chris.
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 Susan.
Chris.
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 Well, team, in that first round, you managed to reach your target of £2,500, but of course it's early days. David, just remind us what you do.
I'm a clergyman. I'm an airport chaplain.
Right, so it was very lucky you got the Our Father question, wasn't it?
It was a miracle.
Phil, why Chris?
I think he was the only person to get a question wrong, if my memory serves.
Steve, why Chris?
Chris was unlucky in being the only person to get a question wrong in that round.
That's just unlucky, is it, if you get a question wrong?
There's no hard questions. You either know the answer or you don't.
Ian, why Chris?
Exactly the same reason as the others. He was unfortunate in that the question never came up for him and he was the only one that got one wrong.
Chris, Haight-Ashbury is a great old hippie colony, isn't it? In San Francisco, not in Seattle. How old are you?
22.
Right. So you've never been in San Francisco with flowers in your hair?
No, I'm a bit too young for that.
Chris, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Be voted out as weakest link's a bit galling, considering I only got one question wrong, and I know that there are people who are worse than I am in that group. I think my teammates possibly picked on me because of my age, and maybe if I'd have been there for a bit longer, they'd have realised that I'm just as clever as they were. I think Susan will be voted out next, because I don't think she's got the mental faculties to carry on.
Round two, team, and you've won so far £2,500 out of indeed £2,500. There are 7 players left. We are now taking 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Susan. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Susan, in politics, has Tony Benn been MP for Chester or Chesterfield since 1984?
Chesterfield.
Correct. Phil, which word can describe both a football match between 2 teams from the same area and a famous horse race?
Derby.
Correct. Yvonne, in fashion, pageboy and afro are both types of what?
Hairstyle.
Correct. David, which US city is served by an airport with the location code of LAX?
Los Angeles.
Correct. Elspeth, which TV characters eat tubby toast and tubby custard?
Teletubbies.
Correct. Steve, which comedy actor and writer's first novel, The Liar, was published in 1991?
I don't know.
Stephen Fry. Ian, what W is the name for a male witch?
Warlock.
Correct. Susan, is the Falabella of Argentina the world's smallest breed of dog or horse?
Horse.
Correct. Phil, software and hardware are terms widely used in reference to what?
Computers.
Correct. Yvonne, according to the proverb, what should one make while the sun shines?
Hay.
Correct.
Bank.
David, which L is a decorative fabric associated with Nottingham?
Lace.
Correct. Elspeth, what do the British call what Americans call a popsicle?
A lollipop.
Correct. Steve, in the book Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, who wore a top hat with the price tag 10 shillings and sixpence on it?
Mad Hatter.
Correct. Ian, Solihull is a metropolitan borough just southeast of which English city?
Birmingham.
Correct. Susan,
Bank.
in the 1953 film Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, who starred as Lorelei Lee?
Marilyn Monroe.
Correct. Phil, in food, what S are the seeds often sprinkled on hamburger buns?
Sesame.
Correct. Yvonne, in music, kettle and bongo are both types of what?
Drum.
Correct. David, which Mediterranean port is the capital of Algeria?
Tangiers.
Wrong. Algiers. Elspeth, in the animal kingdom, is a miller's thumb a fish or an insect?
Fish.
Correct. Steve, in the human body, which joint connects the leg and the foot?
The ankle.
Correct. Ian.
Bank.
On which of your household fuel bills might you see the abbreviation KWH standing for kilowatt hour?
Gas.
Electricity. Susan, in TV, the characters of which comedian included Sid Snot and Captain Kremen?
Kenny Everett.
Correct. Phil. British Parliament. Time's up. I cannot complete the question. And in that round, team, you won £1,800. £250. You could, of course, have won another £2,500. Who is beginning to look a bit slow and out of place? Can you sense someone becoming a burden? One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
The weakest link statistically is Steve. Susan is the strongest link for the second round in a row, as she answered the most questions correctly. But how will the votes go?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Steve.
Ian.
David.
Ian.
Steve.
David.
David.
Ian. Why David?
Again, it was another round where there were very few wrong answers. David was one of the wrong answers, so he got my vote.
Right. Do you know anyone else who got a wrong answer?
Yes, Anne.
Who was that?
Me.
Steve. Why David?
Yes, I got a question wrong as well, but
I asked you, Steve. Why David?
Because David got a question wrong, and I remembered that. And I also think David's been very lucky with the questions that he's been asked.
Do you know anyone else who got a question wrong?
Yes, it was me.
Who do you think was the worst player in the last round, Steve?
Possibly myself or Ian.
Statistically, you were the worst player, Steve. David! The good Lord took his eye off the ball, perhaps.
I think it's kick the vicar time.
You might be right, because you got 2 questions right and you banked the most money.
I know.
But, David, it's votes that count. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I feel absolutely furious that I've been voted off. I put a lot of effort into that game. I only got 1 question wrong and I banked a lot of money which someone else is going to have. I felt that they voted for me because many of them were sure that I was going to be the ultimate winner. Steve seemed to have it in for me right from the very beginning. I would definitely like to see Steve go out next. He voted for me knowing that he was the weakest link, and I hope he comes off next and that he doesn't win any money at all.
Round 3, and out of a possible £5,000, you have put in your kitty £4,350. You are down to 6 players. We're taking another 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Susan. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Susan, which British parliamentary office was held only by men from 1377 till 1992?
Speaker of the House.
Correct. Phil, who ranked higher in ancient Roman society, a plebeian or a patrician?
Patrician.
Correct. Yvonne, in which town in the southeast of England could you visit the White Cliffs experience?
Dover.
Correct. Elspeth, in maths, what is 1/3 of a half?
A 1/6.
Correct. Steve, in the animal kingdom, what is an osprey?
A bird.
Correct. Ian, which pop group's latest album is called Saints and Sinners?
All Saints.
Correct. Susan, in Britain, after how many years of marriage would a couple first receive a message of congratulations from the sovereign? 50, 60 or 75?
60.
Correct. Phil.
Bank.
Poor Maylie was a pet sheep kept by which Scottish poet?
Robert Burns.
Correct. Yvonne, was this year's Formula One Australian Grand Prix held in Melbourne or Sydney?
Sydney.
Melbourne. Elspeth, who is the American equivalent of England's patriotic symbol, John Bull?
Don't know.
Uncle Sam. Steve, which musical features the Von Trapp family?
Sound of Music.
Correct. Ian, what kind of animal is a Samoyed?
Dog.
Correct. Susan, Damien Hirst, Steve McQueen and Gillian Waring have all won which controversial art prize?
The Tate Prize.
The Turner Prize. Phil, a mihrab is a niche in a mosque to show the direction of which holy city of Islam?
Mecca.
Correct. Yvonne, in film, which cowboy actor had a horse called Trigger?
Roy Rogers.
Correct. Elspeth, in the human body, what name is given to the small fringe of hair on the bony ridge just above the eye?
Eyebrow.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in maths, a dodecagon is a plane shape with how many sides?
12.
Correct, Ian. Which TV comedy series of the 1970s featured Graham Garden, Bill Oddie and Tim Brooke Taylor?
Goodies.
Correct, Susan.
Bank.
Which dark wood is traditionally used to make black piano keys?
Ebony.
Correct, Phil.
Bank.
In pop music, You Wear It Well and Do You Think I'm Sexy were both chart hits for which singer?
Rod Stewart.
Correct, Yvonne.
Bank.
In food, does rice paper actually come from the rice plant?
Yes.
No. Elspeth, in astronomy. Time is up. I cannot complete the question. And in that round, team, you banked £1,100 of a possible 2,500. But remember, speed matters more and more in each round, so you urgently need to dispatch any dimwits. She who hesitates is no use, he who passes is a liability. One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
Having answered the most questions correctly, Phil is the strongest link statistically. The weakest link is Yvonne, as she got the most questions wrong. But will the votes reflect the facts?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Yvonne.
Yvonne.
Susan.
Yvonne.
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 Susan. Why Yvonne?
Because she got 2 wrong in the last round.
Elspeth. What's Yvonne done to upset you?
I think, unfortunately, they were 50-50 questions. So, I mean, I know I got one question wrong, but it wasn't a 50-50 question, so...
Generally, how did you think your performance was in that last round?
Well, I've only got one wrong so far throughout, so I'm quite pleased.
Are you? Yvonne, statistically, you were the worst player, and with 5 votes, unanimously, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
The 2 50-50 questions that I got wrong, the first one was about motor racing, about which I have absolutely no idea. And the second was, is rice paper from rice? Well, I've tasted rice paper and it tastes like rice to me. I think Steve might be the next person to be voted out. Everybody's been doing really well, but I do remember Steve has got at least one question wrong, not necessarily in the last round, but I think he might be getting a little nervous.
Round 4. In your kitty is £5,450 out of potential prize money of £7,500. There are 5 of you left. We are taking another 10 seconds off the clock. You now have only 2 minutes. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Phil. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Phil, at the 1999 Oscars, which Best Actress winner famously cried as she made her acceptance speech?
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Correct, Elspeth. In literature, whose first feminist book was The Female Eunuch?
Germaine Greer.
Correct, Steve. In 1995, the US Space Shuttle Discovery had a rendezvous with which Russian space station?
Mir.
Correct, Ian.
Bank.
In the UK government, for what do the initials DFEE stand?
Department for Education and Environment.
Department for Education and Employment. Susan, what was Roald Dahl's book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory renamed for its 1971 cinema release?
I don't know.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Phil, what is the capital of the Catalonian region of Spain?
Seville.
Barcelona. Elspeth, in sport, in which sprint event did Darren Campbell win a silver medal at this year's Sydney Olympics?
200 metres.
Correct, Steve. In the human body, if the top half of the tooth is called the crown, what is the name given to the part below the gum line?
The root.
Correct, Ian. In travel, the 747 aeroplane is made by which company?
Boeing.
Correct. Susan, in film, which actor co-starred with Vivian Leigh in the 1951 film A Streetcar Named Desire?
Laurence Olivier.
Marlon Brando. Phil, in nature, a samlet or par is the young of which type of fish?
Cod.
Salmon. Elspeth, in pop music, the hit songs of which 60s band included Sunny Afternoon and Waterloo Sunset?
The Kinks.
Correct, Steve. Which TV hospital series features a doctor called Victoria Merrick and a nurse called Jasmine?
Casualty.
Hobie City. Ian, which ology is the study of the supposed influence of heavenly bodies?
Astrology.
Correct. Susan, Rapier and cutlass are both types of which weapon?
Sword.
Correct. Phil.
Bank.
What in a CD player plays the same role as a stylus in a record player?
Laser.
Laser beam, yes.
Bank.
Elspeth. Box. Time's up. I cannot complete the question. And in that round, team, you banked an embarrassingly low amount of £350. Who is holding you back? Is there somebody here who needs to be put out of their misery? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
The strongest link is Elspeth, the only player to answer all her questions correctly. Susan is this round's weakest link as she got the fewest questions right. Will her strong performances in earlier rounds save her?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Phil.
Susan.
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 Team, let me give you a progress report at this stage. £2,500, £1,850, £1,100, £350. That's what you've won in the last rounds. I don't know if you can manage to work out which way it's going, but you might consider you voted off some of the wrong people. Steve, remind us what you do for a living, will you?
I'm a bailiff.
Right. You don't manage to watch a bit of television before you take people's sets off them?
I certainly don't watch hospital dramas, no.
You take the set straight away, do you, if it's a
Absolutely.
hospital drama on? A pity, really. Why, Susan?
Basically, for the failure to bank and 2 questions wrong.
Phil, do you like eating fish?
Occasionally.
Do you know the difference between cod and salmon when you eat it?
I will in future.
Why, Susan?
Susan got 2 wrong, as I did, but she failed to bank any money.
Susan, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I'm cross about getting the Roald Dahl question wrong because until very recently I was a bookseller and I should have known the answer to the question, but my mind just went blank. When I did the Walk of Shame, I didn't feel so much shamed as really disappointed. I feel I let myself down. I think probably Phil should be here instead of me. He has banked quite a bit of money, but I think he's losing a little bit of confidence, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was voted off next.
Round 5. In the kitty is £5,800. If you'd hit your targets, that bank would be full of £10,000. There are 4 players left, another 10 seconds coming off the time. We start with the strongest link from the last round, that's Elspeth. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Elspeth, in sport, in which country were the first 3 Cricket World Cups held?
Australia.
England. Steve, making a rude noise with your tongue between your lips is known as blowing a what?
Raspberry.
Correct. Ian, in the human body, ears are responsible for 2 main functions, hearing and what?
Balance.
Correct. Phil, which author's book entitled Posh and Becks was the subject of a recent court case in London?
Andrew Morton.
Correct. Elspeth,
Bank.
the adjective porcine refers to which animal?
Could you repeat, please?
The adjective porcine refers to which animal?
Bear.
Pig. Steve, which major ferry port lies across the estuary of the rivers Stour and Orwell in Essex?
Pass.
Harwich. Ian, was Helios the god of the sun in Greek or Roman mythology?
Greek.
Correct. Phil, in 1972, what animal was presented to Queen Elizabeth II by the President of Cameroon to mark her silver wedding anniversary?
Bear.
Elephant. Elspeth, which 1931 film starring Boris Karloff was an adaptation of a Mary Shelley novel?
Frankenstein.
Correct. Steve, in history, what name was given to London by the Romans?
Londinium.
Correct. Ian.
Bank.
Which UK political party's 1997 manifesto included the abolition of Jeffrey Archer and free space hoppers for the flying squad?
Monster Raving Looney.
Correct. Phil, in
Bank.
horse racing, who has been the National Hunt champion jockey for the last 5 years?
Frankie Dettori.
Tony McCoy. Elspeth, the name of which Brazilian city means River of January?
Rio de Janeiro.
Correct. Steve.
Blank.
What type of food are puffballs and morels?
Mushrooms.
Correct. Ian. Roller, Austrian and Venetian are all types of which window covering?
Blind.
Correct. Phil.
Bank.
The US capital, Washington, D.C. stands on which river?
Potomac.
That was the correct answer, but you were out of time, and in that round, team, you banked £500, who is not worth their place any longer, whose time is very much up. One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the first time in the game, Ian is the strongest link statistically, the only player to get all his questions right. With the fewest correct answers, Phil is this round's weakest link. But will the votes follow the facts?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Elspeth.
Phil.
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 Elspeth. Why Phil?
Because I think it was between me and him, so and I'm obviously not going to vote for myself, so...
Steve, how are you doing?
Better than I did earlier on.
Not much.
I'm still here.
Why Phil?
Basically because in that round, I thought he was the weakest link.
Right. Ian, quite a good round for you, that last round.
Oh, thanks, Anne.
No, I'm just observing it. It wasn't a compliment. What's Phil done to upset you?
He got a couple of his questions wrong.
Does that ever happen to you?
Occasionally, but not in the last round.
Right. Phil, you were statistically the worst player, and with 3 votes, the team have voted you the weakest link. Goodbye.
I feel a little bit peeved about being voted out, as I'd done pretty well to begin with, and I thought that Elspeth had done worse than me in that round. I think Elspeth might be the one to go next, because I think she's starting to lose confidence, and the 2 other guys are pretty consistent.
Round 6, you have £6,300 out of a possible £12,500 you could have won. 3 of you left, another 10 seconds off the clock. We start with the strongest link from the last round, that's Ian. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Ian, which French singer and actress is the mother of actor Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Melody?
Dunno.
Vanessa Paradis. Elspeth, in mountaineering, what P is the metal spike driven into rock to secure ropes?
Pickaxe.
Piton. Steve, which actor links the American TV sitcom Roseanne and the 1994 film The Flintstones?
Pass.
John Goodman. Ian, which spiritual leader was awarded the 1989 Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his campaign to end the Chinese domination of Tibet?
Dalai Lama.
Correct. Elspeth, what sea is the name given to the blocks wedged under the wheels of a parked aeroplane?
Don't know.
Chock. Steve, the name of which animal famed for its mass migrations means wild ox in Afrikaans?
Wildebeest.
Correct. Ian,
Bank.
which Jamaican reggae singers' albums include Exodus and Natty Dread?
Bob Marley.
Correct. Elspeth, what name is given to the mark stamped on gold or silver to indicate the purity of the metal?
Hallmarks.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in the human body, pug, Roman and aquiline are types of what?
Nose.
Correct. Ian, the title of which Humphrey Bogart Ingrid Bergman film translates to mean White House?
Casablanca.
Correct. Elspeth, in music, what F is the singing method used by males to achieve notes higher than the normal vocal range?
Falsetto.
Correct. Steve,
Bank.
in fashion, which Kensington boutique began as a mail-order firm founded by Barbara Hulanicki in 1963?
Don't know.
Bieber. Ian, who became the Republic of Ireland's first woman president in 1990?
Mary Robinson.
Correct. Elspeth, which island were the pop band Typically Tropical going to? Time is up. I cannot complete the question, and in that round you banked a disappointing £400. Now, in round 7, you get the chance to double what you bank. That means in the next round, there's £5,000 to be won. The question is, Who do you think is least likely to assist you in raising your bank balance to the maximum? Who, in other words, is the worst player? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the second successive round, Ian is the strongest link, having answered the most questions correctly. Elspeth is the weakest link, but at this crucial stage in the game, how will the votes go?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Steve.
Elspeth.
Elspeth.
Elspeth, how do you think you did in that last round?
I just didn't know the answers to the 2 questions.
Ian, why Elspeth?
Well, as she's already said, Elspeth got a couple wrong.
You got one wrong, didn't you?
I got the 1 wrong, Anne, yes.
Steve, did you get the 1 wrong?
No, I got the 2 wrong.
So, the same as Elspeth?
Yes, but it's the weakest link certainly wasn't Ian, and I can't vote for myself.
Right. Elspeth, you were the worst player, and the rest of the team have voted you the weakest link. Goodbye.
I feel a bit gutted to be voted off as the weakest link, but at the same time I've got further than I ever thought I would, so I'm pleased with my performance, but I think the guys were going to gang up on me at the end, whatever happened anyway. So I've never heard of chocks or blocks underneath plain wings, so I'm not really annoyed that I got that one wrong. And as far as the mountaineering question, I could not think of anything else apart from crampons, and I knew that obviously they don't begin with the letter P. I think Ian will probably win because he's been stronger over the last few rounds. I think he's gaining in confidence.
Round 7, you've won £6,700 so far. By now you could have won £15,000. Ian and Steve, just the 2 of you left, and this time you have 90 seconds. But whatever you win in this round will be doubled and added to your total to make up your final prize money. So £5,000 is at stake in this round. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Ian. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Ian, what C describes the group of plants which includes the Venus flytrap?
Carnivorous.
Correct. Steve. In the TV cartoon The Simpsons, who is the headmaster at Bart and Lisa Simpson's school?
I don't know.
Principal Skinner. Ian. In the 19th century, when he ordered iron shutters for Apsley House, which British statesman became known as the Iron Duke?
Duke of Wellington.
Correct. Steve. Clamour, building or parliament are the collective names for a group of which noisy birds?
Crows.
Rooks. Ian. In music, what M is a mechanical device used to reduce the tonal volume of an instrument?
Metronome.
Mute. Steve. In the 1944 film Henry V, who directed and starred as Henry?
Laurence Olivier.
Correct. Ian. In children's literature, which famously greedy schoolboy attended Greyfriars School?
Bunter.
Correct.
Bank.
Steve. In astronomy, which planet has more moons, Mercury or Pluto?
Pluto.
Correct. Ian.
Bank.
In pop music, which group is fronted by Tom York?
Don't know.
Radiohead. Steve. Pocket, fob and half hunter, all types of what?
Watches.
Correct. Ian.
Bank.
First played in the 19th century, what is Canada's most popular winter sport?
Ice hockey.
Correct. Steve. In 1945, Ho Chi Minh declared Vietnam's independence from which European country?
France.
Correct. Ian.
Bank.
In gardening, floribundas and hybrid teas are both types of what flower?
Chrysanthemums.
Rose. Steve. In sport, in which month is Americans football Super Bowl normally played?
January.
Correct. Ian.
Bank.
In fashion, what V is a popular fabric made out of waste cotton and Time's up. The correct answer was viscose. And you didn't make it to £2,500. You won £350. Never mind, we'll double that and add it to the winnings from the previous rounds. That means total prize money this evening of £7,400. But only one of you can take that money away. So now you will be playing against each other head to head. I'll ask alternate questions. It's the best of 5. Whoever answers the most questions correctly wins. It's as simple as that. If there's a tie after 5 questions each, we'll go for sudden death until we have a winner. So, Ian and Steve, for £7,400, let's play the weakest link. Steve, as the strongest link in the last round, you have the choice of who goes first.
I'll go first.
Steve, how many grandchildren does Queen Elizabeth II have?
Six.
That is the correct answer. Ian, remember you're not fighting the clock, you can take your time. In American history, which chief of the Sioux Nation led the massacre of Custer and his men at Little Big Horn?
Chief Sitting Bull.
That is the correct answer. Steve, what was the breed of the dead parrot in Monty Python's Flying Circus?
Norwegian Blue.
That is the correct answer. Ian, in the human body, which of the senses would you have lost if you were diagnosed with anosmia?
Smell.
That is the correct answer. Steve, I'll just remind you, you're playing for £7,400 and only one of you can take that money away. Which jazz trumpeter in 1968 became the oldest artist to top the UK singles charts?
Louis Armstrong.
That is the correct answer. Ian, according to the rhyme, if one magpie is for sorrow and two for joy, what is five for?
Silver.
That is the correct answer. Now you are level scores at the moment. And we're playing for £7,400. Steve, in international trade, for what does the acronym OPEC stand?
Organisation of Petroleum Exporting Countries.
That is the correct answer. Ian, in entertainment, what kind of performers were Joseph Grimaldi and Grok?
Clowns.
That is the correct answer. Steve, during which month of the Gregorian calendar did the 1917 October Revolution begin in Russia?
November.
That is the correct answer. Ian, you need to answer this question correctly, or else Steve has won and takes home the money. So, to stay in the game, Ian, in literature, Pemberley by Emma Tennant is the sequel to which Jane Austen novel?
Emma.
No, that is wrong. The correct answer is Pride and Prejudice. That means, Steve, you are tonight's strongest link and you go away with £7,400. Ian, you leave with nothing. Join us again for the weakest link. Goodbye.
When I got to the final and I answered the sense of smell question right, which is a pure guess, I really thought I was riding my luck well and I really thought I was going to win.
When the final question to Ian came up and it was literature, I thought Ian didn't look like a literature person, so I thought I must be in with a chance.